Hola and welcome to the Rear Winging It Formula 1 podcast. I'm your host Kieran. I'm joined by my co-host Harry.
Hello, good to be back.
And my other co-host Ellie.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome. So, Barcelona this week. A good track, been on the calendar for a while. And it was, as Ellie just said, showing her Spanish GCSE muy caliente this weekend. A good race all round. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I enjoyed it much more than last week.
Yeah, wasn't hard, right?
I mean, last week was so boring. I thought I wouldn't turn up to the podcast because obviously there was nothing to talk about. So that's the only reason I wasn't here.
Yeah, Harry, do you want to tell the people where you were last week? We mentioned it on the pod, but
I occasionally get calls for other podcasts. So maybe that's what I was doing. I was just spreading my wings, and I definitely wasn't locked out and spending the whole of the podcast on the doorstep. So we don't need to talk about it anymore. But this race, much better.
But no, speaking of people who missed out, our fan favourite on the podcast, Lance Stroll, didn't actually start the race this weekend. Apparently those wrist issues he's had since 2023 haven't really resolved themselves. He's been driving in pain. And Aston Martin, I don't know what the trigger was, but they've decided it's enough and he's going to be off for the foreseeable with having some wrist surgery.
See, what I heard is that he was really unhappy about qualifying half a second down off of Alonso. Yeah. He went into the garage. He maybe punched a few things. I think there was rumours that he had damaged some equipment and yelled at some of the team members, and he didn't go to the weigh-in. So they normally, the drivers, they get out the car after qualifying and they have to go straight to be weighed in. He didn't do that and he got a reprimand, but I think he was let off because he had gone to seek medical treatment. So there were rumours obviously saying he went in the garage, he's punched something and he's damaged his wrist again. Whether or not they're true, we don't know.
Wow, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, there was clarification that
that wasn't on my radar.
There was an article about it, and it details all basically everything Ellie just said, and then at the end it was Aston Martin said no, this was not what happened at all. Didn't give any other explanation or anything though, so sounded a bit fishy.
Yeah. Had he been feeling discomfort all weekend, I don't think they would have risked him for qualifying, knowing that he wouldn't have been able to take part in the race.
No.
Yeah, or put someone else.
Why put him in? Yeah.
Drogovic.
That's the thing, because once he'd gone
FP3.
through. Yeah, but once Stroll had done qualifying, there was no way anybody else could line up on the grid. So
if locked in then.
Yeah. So the excuse that they gave of, he's been feeling discomfort for a while, if it got so bad, it was on that point, they just shouldn't have risked it, especially with his home race 2 weeks away. It would have made more sense to rest it or get him treatment before, because he's going to have surgery now.
Yeah, and there wasn't any timeline. I haven't heard any timelines of how long he might be out for. So if they knew what the issue was and that might have been planned for a while, you'd feel like they'd have good timelines to give out. So maybe that adds more fuel to the fire of the punching things.
Had it been planned, it's a very dumb plan, because there's a chance he's going to miss his home race. So I think, to me, there's no way this was something they saw coming.
No, it's either he's head in the sand, tried to push through. I mean, he shouldn't have come back as quickly as he did the first time round, really. I mean...
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So, I think he misses... If this is all true and he's in for surgery and everything, and he shouldn't be racing in Canada. Whether they try and get him in there is another thing, but you're just going to end up doing more damage. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we take the mick out of him a bit and I think it's fair game, but obviously you don't want drivers driving through severe injuries that are going to cause them any kind of long-term damage, right? But speaking of long-term damage, let's talk about Lando Norris's mental health. Out-qualified by Piastri by 0.2 seconds this week. I think it was the largest pole margin of the season, if I'm right in saying that.
I don't know.
I think it's one of the biggest. I think it. I think it's the biggest. It's definitely up there. We've had really small margins, so 0.2 is actually is actually massive. So yeah.
In the same car, 0.2 is huge.
Yeah, especially after Lando
And,
talked about, I've got my Saturday pace back. It kind of deserted him.
Yeah. I think we've said a few times that the style of drivers they are, if Piastri is going to be out qualifying Norris, it's going to be a long old season for Norris. It felt like Monaco might have been a bit of a turning point. This seems like a bit of a return to form, as it were, with Piastri out qualifying Norris. But hey, again, we'll wait and see. Still a young season, but back in the ascendancy a little bit. Oscar Piastri, after what you could say was not a tough couple of weeks, but maybe a couple of weeks where he wasn't where he wants to be on the top step every single time. And yeah, to confirm it was the biggest margin of pole it's had all season.
There you go.
But again, on the topic of big margins, Yuki Tsunoda, Max Verstappen, probably the biggest gap in. Every week we've got a Red Bull sandwich on the grid, with a bit of McLaren on top, but a Red Bull sandwich on the grid again this week. P20 for Yuki, last place.
It's disappointing, isn't it? But I mean, the reporters asked Max, and he basically said, like, in different words, don't blame Yuki. It's the car. There's no reason why all these drivers have been terrible, and we saw Max moaning about the car all weekend. So, I mean, P20 is shocking, but like we know, Tsunoda is not a bad driver. He's a midfield driver, but I mean, 20. I mean, I've said that he will finish the season in the car, but I mean, no, in Red Bull. I mean, geez, another few races like this, and maybe not.
But I don't know. We spoke about Hadjar taking the seat for 2026, and Harry, you were very much against that.
Yeah.
But he's the only real prospect, unless they get in somebody like absolutely ridiculous, like Valtteri Bottas or something, to come and see out the season. But I can't imagine that ever happening. So they don't really have an alternative.
No, you're right. I mean, the pipeline's a bit messed up. I mean, considering you have... This is sort of the problem. When you have a B team, you have those two seats. You don't need the money. You can put whoever you want in there. There's no need for a pay driver or anything. And yet we get instances like this where, one driver's a rookie that's too soon, and the other one's not much more than a rookie and has already had his chance in the seat and been burned by it.
Already tried and failed.
Yeah, if it was me, I'd try and get someone else for a year in that seat. Just you either keep Tsunoda depending on his form throughout the season, but towards the end, I would say look at your Hulkenberg. I don't know what his. I assume he's out of contract this season.
Hulkenberg signed on for that. Hulkenberg moved for the Audi project, though, so I assume Hulkenberg's got a few years on his deal.
He might,
because he only moved this season.
German driver.
I don't know. I thought, I thought Audi had both seats open, but I might be wrong there.
Maybe.
I mean, it's. I don't think Hulkenberg would necessarily want to move, but if he was out of contract, then he'd probably take any seat. So just someone like that. Yeah, just another midfield driver, like when they signed Perez. You're looking for basically another Perez. But I mean, if the car's as bad as it is, no one's going to be good in it. But next year could be a different story. New regs. So.
Stick me in it at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think this week, after this week, well, didn't matter since it's 20 points, but it's 7 races, 7 points for Yuki, which just isn't good enough, is it? I think Red Bull probably admitted to themselves at this point that fourth slot in the Constructors' Championship is the best they're going to get. Switching a driver mid-season for the second time is probably more of a distraction they want. Yeah. And I think they'll just cut their losses and say, yeah, we've got Yuki, we'll keep him for the year, and then who knows what's going to happen next year.
But aside from all this doom and gloom, there were some fantastic results this weekend.
Yeah.
Outside the grid, we're talking about Hulkenberg, P5 in the Sauber. Yeah.
Amazing.
Fantastic result. And the unluckiest man.
And that was it.
the unluckiest man in
That didn't
Formula
even fall in
1.
his lap either.
He got his first points of the season.
Yeah, very nice.
Did.
I mean, 10 points a
And
lot because they were dead
start
last.
for the rookie, but
They were dead last,
For the
and
Sauber,
they're
yeah.
up 2 places. Yeah, the Sauber. So, I mean, massive points for the team. And I mean, obviously, he was moved up 1 due to Verstappen's penalty. But even without that, P6 would have been a mega result. And
Oh, yeah.
overtaking Hamilton on track at the end was, well, it was quite funny.
Oh yeah,
Let's
after
put it
the
that way.
safety car, yeah.
Yeah, after the safety car. So, yeah, really impressive.
on the topic of overtakes, we had Hulkenberg overtaking Lewis right at the end there. But in general this week, I mean, we always knew it was going to be better than Monaco. You'd hope, Jesus. But a lot more overtakes this week. Some of them more contentious than others, which I think we'll cover. But I'd say a good week of racing this week on the overtake front.
Yeah, and there was a lot going on. I know that it was, again, we were talking about strategy, whether people going 2 stops or 3 stops, but there was a lot more overtaking for position and not just, there's blue flags, or this person's on new tyres, this person's on 50-lap old tyres. There was actual overtaking, if you know what I mean when I say
not
that.
Not just tyre discrepancies, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it was
straight
nice.
at the start.
Up and down the grid really as well.
Yeah, there were battles all around, because we often get DRS trains and then you just feel like, I'm just watching a DRS train. But I felt like we had a bit less of that and a bit more switching between the midfield as well, which was nice because often they just get stuck for most of the race.
Well, I mean, I think that was epitomised by Liam Lawson this week. He gets in the wars, that boy. Tell you what, I think you got to respect that he got dropped very early in, a wobbly start to an F1 career, but he hasn't let that put him off going for overtakes. Whether it works every time's a different story. But my God, he gets stuck in. Yeah, maybe he should, but my God, he gets stuck in, right?
They had Nico Rosberg on the commentary, and he was like, he's dive bombing.
Yeah.
And one of them kind of paid off a bit, but then a couple of laps later, he does it again, there's contact. And was it with Albon?
I think Albon
was quite unlucky in this race.
Albon was Lawson overtook Albon, or Albon was go off track and he gave the place back or something like that, and that was a fair attempt. And I think he took credence from that and then tried again on Beerman. And if Beerman didn't get out of the way, he would have speared him in the side, essentially. So we got that one a little bit, overcooked it a little bit on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I like a bit more on the aggressive side. I like people who are trying more, like doing the bold late braking. I just think he's a little bit young and reckless, but it's interesting. Keeps it interesting. He's just got to keep a cool head, otherwise he's going to get into trouble.
It's very similar to an early Yuki Tsunoda in that sense. Do you know what I mean? Decent pace.
Yeah.
Puts himself about maybe too much, which is an interesting parallel.
I think
it's kind of a Red Bull trait.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Yeah, Yuki was very inconsistent when he first came in. I remember that. I remember some races you would look and go, wow, he's actually got some pace, and some races he would just hit loads of people and spin several times, and he was quite inconsistent. I think maybe Lawson post the Red Bull experiment, should we call it, he's been a bit less up and down as a young Tsunoda was, but he's not necessarily consistently good. That's what I'll say.
Fair enough. He's had a few decent results though. I think whether how much that's him and how much the RB actually is looking like a decent race car this year, remains to be seen. I'd say he's still getting outclassed, strong word, but he's still getting outperformed at least by Isaac Hadjar, I'd say. Yeah. Based on the two of them since they've been together.
I would say outclassed.
Outclassed, yeah.
Well, I think that's harsh given that Hadjar's Monaco result was manufactured by Liam Lawson doing the hard yards for him, slowing the car down.
But that's one result. Every other weekend, Hadjar's been comfortably above him and qualifying comfortably above him. And you have to consider that Hadjar's younger, less experienced. So I would say outclassed when you consider.
And he's busy celebrating the PSG
win
until small hours of the night, I'm sure, as well, before the race.
Hadjar's P9, by the way, and Lawson's P17. So and Lawson had, whether it was 6 races in, supposedly a better car. So yeah, I think outclassed is fair.
But whilst we're on the topic of Lawson, then obviously someone that we did mention on the receiving end, well, whether it's his fault or not on that one, but on the receiving end of the Lawson special, Alex Albon, just Williams in general, torrid weekend for them. Some of their issues with their car in the max braking, max turning kind of corners really showed this week. Something's not making out of Q1.
But they knew coming into it that this was going to be potentially their weakest track of the year. So I think I wasn't expecting them to do particularly well, but they really struggled. And then Albon getting hit, they both got hit. They both needed to come in for a new front wing, and then Albon got hit again. They called him to retire. On his way to retire, then it came through from the FIA that he had the stewards had given him a 10-second penalty, so he did another lap before retiring, so it didn't carry on till the next race. And I thought that's a bit farcical that you're allowed to do that. They'd already said on the radio, okay, retire the car, but he gets away with it for the next race.
Yeah, I mean, was it just the fact that they didn't have another wing, or was there more damage to the car?
I'm not sure, or maybe they were just like, it's not worth it.
I think at that point they said, let's just cut our losses.
Yeah,
which is fair enough.
I couldn't work it out. I did say originally, I was like, oh, they just not got another wing, but we had a bit of a chat about it, and I just thought, you know what, the points aren't happening, and normally it's not really right to pack it in, but if you can save potentially getting hit again and save some of the PU, I mean, just retire.
Yeah.
Well, PU very topical, because that was our second race in a row with a Mercedes powertrain failure. Antonelli breathing some life into the race. I will say for the listener, I was watching the race live, as I should do as a F1 podcaster. I was dragged. Did I say dragged? I went to a citizen. That's a strong word. A residents meeting with my fellow flat residents, and got dragged away and came back and said, "Oh, that's it. The race is over."
Awful.
Then Ellie texted me saying another Merc powertrain failure, and I was like, "What?" And then I realised I missed 10 laps of very dramatic racing right at the end. I even said as I walked out the door, "That's it. Race is over. I can leave now." And then boom, I missed the best bit of the race. But yeah, another engine failure. It seems to be the higher heat seems to be the running theme, because Monaco as well was quite hot, if I remember.
Very hot, yeah.
Yeah, once I
Ellie
watched
jinxed
that,
it.
see if it.
She said we hadn't had many
interesting.
PU failures, and look at us now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Mercedes has been very reliable for the last 9 whatever seasons. It's been a very reliable engine, so it's interesting. But it's not just them that have had issues, because the Haas have had issues with their power unit and their Ferrari, so it's affected more than one engine.
Interesting, though, 'cause it feels like we've gone backwards from last year, where last year feels like I can't remember really thinking about engines last year and people having engine failures. It was a really good year for reliability, and this year seems to be going backwards. Do you think it's maybe just an effect of the manufacturers focusing on the regs for next year, maybe, just taking their eye off the ball now?
Maybe, or maybe it's just as simple as being a bit of a coincidence.
Yeah, maybe it's all a bit overblown and we won't see any for the rest of the year. I think we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But yeah, moving on then in the race itself. So obviously things were kind of crystallised. Most of the stops had happened. Out of the blue, Antonelli caused this safety car pulling up on track, pulling up in the gravel with his engine issue. Red Bull bringing Verstappen in for the hards. What were they thinking? Was it the right call? Was it the wrong call? What do you think?
Wrong.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it looks wrong, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah.
But as I was watching it, I felt like it was wrong. He was on what, like 7-8 lap old softs. Yeah. You were only going to have to go 5-6 laps once the safety car came in. I feel like he had a better shot. P1.
Yeah, because you've already got a tyre deficit.
Old softs. Yeah.
I don't think anyone else even put on like brand new fresh softs either, right? I don't think anyone really had brand new fresh softs to put on at that point. So it's not like he was going to be...
No.
Most people were putting on scrub sets.
Yeah.
Only slightly scrubbed, I guess, but still, like...
I think
Yeah.
I know it happened. It happened quick, right? But I don't know. I would like to see the onboard because it obviously happens quick. You got to make a quick decision. But knowing Max, right? Why wouldn't you try and ask him, or at the very least tell him? Because no one has informed him what tires he's getting. So he makes some sarcastic comment over the radio, like, what are these tires? And they just go, these are the hard tires, Max. It's like, he obviously knows, he can see the tires, but like he's being sarcastic because you've clearly not informed him what you're doing.
Yeah.
You haven't asked for his opinion on what he's doing, and I know it's such a tight turnaround, but and they shouldn't listen. So that's a separate point. The other point is that you shouldn't have to pander to him, but you know what he's like.
Yeah.
So if you've pissed him off with the tires, you're causing a chain of events that is going to ultimately end up in a very bad result. And I feel like, that shouldn't be on the team, but it sort of is part of the team. It's about managing the driver. And clear communication is very important. So I feel like that was a mistake from his garage, and I feel like that is kind of rare. They're pretty on it, but... the communication for me was the biggest problem.
Because
but I think the tire choice was bad.
The McLarens were in front. They double stacked, which was a risk. Lando's was slower, but I guess they had the gap. But I think Verstappen should have done the opposite. He saw both of them. If maybe okay, one of them goes in, he'll go in, but they both went in, and I think he should have stayed out, especially with like how. Yeah. Okay, he can be a bit aggressive. He can get his elbows out a bit too far, but he can be difficult to pass. Even though, yes, there would have obviously been this huge tyre offset.
And then you've got the two McLarens fighting.
Yeah, you've got the two McLarens have got to pass you, and then the drivers behind. Whereas, he comes out in third, and two cars passed him. So, if he'd have not pitted and two cars passed him, he'd have ended up in third as opposed to
That's what I was thinking. Like,
fifth,
let them earn it.
10th as
well. Let those, if those two McLarens are going to overtake you, having pitted, which they probably would have, and I think he would have, Red Bull would have accepted that. They would have probably known that was the outcome probably likely to happen. But why not make him earn it? Even obviously the way it ended was pretty catastrophic for Red Bull, but why not make McLaren earn those spots? If you have 8-lap-old softs, if you think if they had those 8-lap-old softs in the garage to put on, they probably would have done it and put them on instead. So why not keep him on the tyre he's actually on right now? Right? I don't know. Hindsight obviously is good, but I don't think even at the time it made sense.
Nobody else used the hards. The whole weekend, nobody else was using the hards. So why they went on to them, I don't know. It was the wrong decision, and it seemed like the wrong decision at the time.
Well, speaking of decision making, then the outcome of this at the restart, Max on those not fully warmed up hards that no one had really run all weekend, had a massive moment down the pit straight, didn't he? Where he was lucky to keep it on track.
Crazy.
Really, had a huge tank slapper.
It was he nearly was in the wall there. It was very well held from
It's a
him.
classic Max last 6 laps where like that moment was super impressive and the rest was terrible.
Yeah. It's like basically him, I reckon him, Alonso maybe, and Hamilton. You're not getting many other drivers who are going to save that.
No.
It was quite heart in your mouth stuff. Just so happened that he was obviously that added to the stress, and I think he at this point just then started to lose his absolute mind. Unfortunately.
Well,
in a way that we've not seen for a while.
It has been a while. Well, he's been winning a lot,
His car's been but his car's been slower for this season and the second half of last season, and there's been moments, but not like this. This is but it's maybe like 2018.
In my memory,
2021, I'd say.
Oh, when he drove over Hamilton's head.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's the last one in my mind that sticks out.
Yeah.
I'd say that one was worse.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like, this is like of him unraveling. I feel like that was kind of the last time I've seen him fully come undone.
I think for him it was just he probably felt like he got dropped in it because the team made the wrong call on the tyres. He had a big moment that he saved, then Leclerc overtakes him on the straight basically because of that moment. Then
and they touched as well. And
they touched.
It wasn't Leclerc's fault, but Verstappen's at that point in that mindset of he's already starting to spiral, unravel, and so it's kind of Verstappen's fault with the Leclerc incident, but it's more of just a restart. He's trying to activate the hard tyre.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really an incident that needed a penalty or anything. But it was, if you had to say whose fault it was his fault.
But then that same corner then basically into turn 1.
That leads into the Russell, which, so now this is the thing. Like, if we'd had some communication so the tyre didn't bother him, or you let him have his input, Russell then tries this overtake. This is Russell's fault, I guess. I'm not going to say blame, but he should give that position back. He shouldn't have it. So Max has stayed out in front. But we have the issue which we haven't really seen before with this updated kind of teams making the decision to give the position back first, having that onus on the teams, because the Red Bull called it wrong. They told him to give the position back.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have given the position back. Max is obviously going to think he's not going to have to give it back. But in this instance, he was right. That's really infuriated him now to the point where he's boiling over. But they're just thinking, look, if we get a penalty, like, we might lose this place anyway. If we get a penalty, we're losing multiple places. And, before...
Yeah, because it's just after the restart, everybody's so close together.
Yeah. So I think we have seen a big negative there of leaving it up to the team first. And,
So I think what happened is that on the pit wall they saw, it's being investigated by the stewards, and then GP Lambiase was like, let's just get him to swap, so that, because normally if that gets investigated, it is often a penalty. So I think that their thought of it was like, it's being reviewed, let's just swap it. And as Harry says, it was not the right decision, and Nico Rosberg afterwards was saying there's 3 criteria and George met 2 of them but not the third one, so it wasn't his corner to do that. Even though he was very nearly entitled to it, he wasn't entitled to that corner, and therefore the place did not have to be given back. But I guess it's just in the moment you don't have the time to dilly-dally on the decisions, and they were just like, let's just give it back.
I mean, it's hard because I think they probably thought he's going to get us anyway, even if it's 60-40, 70-30, no penalty. I mean, I did think it wasn't, and then when they order him, Rosberg, who was really quite on it this weekend. I do like when he commentates.
I like Rosberg commentating.
I think he'd had... Yeah.
He makes big calls, and normally he's right on the money. Sometimes he can be a bit dramatic, but he says it how it is, kind of thing. And if he misses the call, because it is very hard to see sometimes, then he's really gone with it. He doesn't hedge his bets like maybe Crofty or Brundle, but overall, I think it works. And he immediately says, "No, what are you doing? That's wrong."
No,
wrong.
Don't do that.
He can't believe what he's seeing.
He is good in the commentary, because he also he's quite good at explaining it in a, I have this view and I know that this is the right view and this is why I have the right view, as opposed to, as you say, someone like Crofty maybe hedging their bets a bit more, whereas he's much more like, this is why. Maybe it's the German side of it.
I think it is, because I was just gonna say Crofty, I can't remember what he said, but it was coming down to the end. He was like, is Max gonna maybe make the strategy work? Is he gonna bring the pressure? Is Lando gonna bring the pressure? Trying to create some conversation, create that entertainment, give you a bit of, and Rosberg just goes, no, Piastri's gonna win.
He's gone.
And obviously that's what's gonna happen, barring something crazy, but it's not good commentating, but as a viewer who maybe knows what's on, it's quite refreshing.
True. It's like, don't try and talk to us like children, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. As like we've all been fans for a
Mm.
long time, we understand the sport very
Yeah.
well. Sometimes you don't want to be like pandered to. You just want
Yes,
to be
yeah.
like, I know I'm watching it. I'm
Yeah.
like, that person is not going to catch up. I don't want you to try and like false, like, you know, make this false
Yeah.
narrative. So
But then sometimes, like me, you think it's all over, and then Max ends up P10 after a 10-second penalty for essentially driving into the side of George Russell. I don't, some people have said,
Yeah.
maybe he was angry, so he didn't do it the right way. Was it fully deliberate? I think it was fully deliberate. I think he fully knew what he was doing.
So he slows down quite dramatically. So George obviously thinks, oh, okay, he's giving me the place back. And then he's obviously on the outside round the corner, and Max just he comes completely, as I say, so he comes completely off the throttle to slow down, and then as Harry just said, he doesn't turn, he goes right back on the throttle before the apex of the corner, and drives straight in to George Russell. So I think it was deliberate because otherwise, it was very erratic driving, and I don't know why you would drive like that.
And the way he did it to bang tyres
slow
is
down
like, if you wanted to deliberately hit someone, you would just bang tyres. You don't actually want to damage your car, kind of thing. So it was like textbook way of like trying to bang into someone to send a message.
Yeah, or like when children fight, they don't necessarily want to hurt each other.
It looked dodgy to me. I'm gonna be honest. I did message Ellie afterwards and say, you know, sometimes he makes it hard to be a Red Bull fan.
Yeah.
I said earlier I like the aggressive driving. Obviously, this is not what I mean.
Yeah, this is too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think 10 seconds is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I'm gonna clearly agree there. I mean, that is
It's
mental.
paltry,
I mean, we talked about Albon got a penalty, 10-second penalty this race. Behrman got a 10-second penalty this race for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. How is this the same caliber?
How is hitting a driver
this is
on
not
path,
the same caliber.
baiting someone into...
To think of like the same...
It's terrible.
Yeah. The same caliber, shall we say. I think this Verstappen one was worse, but last week we spoke about Russell deliberately broke the rules and he went straight at the chicane in Monaco, and he was given for that a 20-second time penalty. Well, not 20 seconds. He was given a drive-through, and a drive-through is about 20 seconds, right? Maybe a bit less, but let's say roughly 20 seconds, just for ease. So, yes, last week Russell broke the rules, and yes, last week I thought it was the correct decision. And this Verstappen incident was deemed half as bad if we look at it in a time penalty way. And in no world was this less of a rule break. I know that it wasn't... It didn't cause anyone to crash or
It could have, though.
to lose position, but it could have. And when you're going at that speed, you can't. There's no way you can fully understand the outcome of that action. There's no way you can compute that. He didn't know. He could have sent George Russell spinning off into the barriers. He didn't know.
I think you can take it from, so you can't get into Verstappen's mind. You can get a clear enough picture from it, but even saying, look, this was not deliberate, it's dangerous, and it's poor driving, so it's a bad move, and it's worse in that sense than what I'm just using this race because it's the same stewards. The 2 10 seconds in this race, it was worse than both of those. So even on that sense, it should be more than that. And then you add the other stuff into it, it's clearly worse. I mean, I know they don't seem to do stop and go penalties, but I know they don't like to give disqualified.
Well, Rosberg was calling for a black flag, right? On the commentary.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And he stood by that. And afterwards he said, was it like 1997, Schumacher got disqualified from the championship.
I would say that was obviously far worse. That was obviously far worse.
The context.
But Vettel,
context is different.
I think 17 is closer, and he didn't get disqualified, but he did get a harsher penalty than this.
Yeah, and that was under a safety car as well.
I feel like that's better. Yeah, so I feel like, there's precedent. And there's precedence as far as disqualification. I don't think that was necessarily where it should have been, but you could argue for it more than a 10-second. So
yeah, I would have said a black flag would have been a bit more fair. 'Cause, I mean, he ended up with 1 point.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really
From this
change the
race.
result. I mean,
But
if you
it
look
would
big
have
picture,
just set the precedent.
yes.
But I suppose
If you look big picture, this is pretty much not game over for Max, but you know the season is looking very unlikely that he's going to win the championship.
he
so
cost himself
they
a
don't.
massive
I know
hit.
they don't like to decide the championship. They're not really doing that by adding much more. So I feel like put your foot down, show a message. Doesn't take much here.
But if that's how the championship's decided because of
This
his
is
his stupidity and aggression, then that's his decision,
His
right?
petulance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's nearly 50 points now from him.
Big swing from him
from
now.
him to
for both
Oscar,
him and Lando,
and then
big swing for him. Like
What Oscar's?
yeah.
Oscar's 10 points clear of Lando, so it's a big gap. And I think in second place in the championship somehow now is the Ferraris. They're on about 160, 164 points, something like that, and the McLarens have like 200 points more than them. So there's a huge gap, a huge gap. As I was saying, you know, if the McLarens carry on at this rate, they could end up on like 950 points for the season, which is just
It'll be so
crazy.
interesting to see where they end up.
Yeah, it will be, because there was, I don't know, this was a race coming into it where I was saying, you know, I was saying on the podcast last week, I was saying that the Red Bull's going to be quicker here, it suits their car better, it doesn't suit the McLaren as much, and yet they've walked away with 1 point from the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Barcelona is a kind of, you're good here, you're good everywhere. You know, you show good signs here, you're all right kind of vibe. So I mean, I mean, we saw that with the McLarens. I mean, it's going to be a dominant season, but as long as we get fighting between those two, we go back to the start a little bit. I know we didn't really touch on it, but it was exciting because I really thought we were going to get the two McLarens finally on the front row again and actually have some battle between them. But once again, we don't really see them anywhere closer than 3-4 seconds.
Well, you can put that down to Lando's start, to be honest. Like, Oscar had a great start, but Lando let Max in immediately, essentially, didn't he? So
yeah, it was a poor getaway from Lando.
But a decent recovery.
His reaction, because it comes up now with the reaction times, doesn't it? Like time off the line, and his was much.
Well, if I remember,
much slower than the drivers
they
around.
didn't hold him long, to be fair. By the time the last car got on the grid,
it
was basically
that's
like,
exactly what I said.
Like, they were off me. I was like, I took my eye off and looked back. I was like, oh my god, they're away. Like,
yeah, because you know the 5 lights come up and they immediately went off. Sometimes they hold them a bit longer, but it is random, I believe.
Yeah,
it's like a time of like 2 to 30 seconds or something, like maybe not quite 30, but there's like a time, and they just press the button and no one knows how long it's going to be, which is, I guess, the fairest way, because otherwise people get used to it.
Well, you know that in the 90s, I think teams used to intercept the signal. So teams used to, so some of the front, some of the, you know, richer teams on the grid who had more money to waste on this kind of thing, actually developed a system where they intercepted the radio signal being sent to the lights, so their driver would know when to start. And one week they tricked him and said,
"That's amazing."
1 week, I'll tell the story properly next week if I look it up. But like,
they tricked them, and half the grid
they tricked
went.
Him, sent a false signal, and half the grid just started driving, so they knew everyone who was cheating straight away. It's such a classic bit of like 90s F1 chicanery. We're starting talking about the 90s, so should we probably move forwards to our drivers of the day then? Harry, I'm not going to let you say Verstappen this week, as a rule, after what he did. So
he was voted
driver of the
day by the fans.
Yeah, how crazy! The drivers of the day this year have been absolutely ridiculous.
It's been terrible. It's been terrible. I think the vote may have been closed. It opens 10 laps before or something stupid, and I think it may have even been closed by the time this incident happened, or you know, it's clearly at the end.
I think it closes on the last lap.
Yeah, so maybe a bit of time, but yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I think I'd be surprised if we don't all want to say the same person or all say the same person. It's got to be Hulkenberg.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
I think so.
All weekend had the pace, fantastic result. big for the team as well. Like, it's not just individual, that's brought the team right back into it. Yeah.
I will say Hulkenberg definitely, with a little side note to Alonso for his first points.
Yeah, and at his home race. That's nice to see.
Yeah, his home race, exactly, yeah. Because for quite a lot of the race, it didn't seem like he was gonna be fighting for a point, because he was battling down like 16th and 17th with Sainz. But he ended up on like the right strategy, and the safety car really helped him to be on the right tyre at the right time.
I'd like to give another shout out to Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly did okay in 8th as well in the Alpine. Not bad, but the Hajar and Gasly, the two Frenchmen next to each other, 7th and 8th. I think it says a lot about Hajar that him getting P7, we're kind of glossing over it, and it's expected of him now. It really shows the strength of season that he's having. Yeah. To be honest, that doesn't even cross our radar as like an impressive result anymore, because it's just that consistent from him. I think he's quietly building a really impressive season under his belt. The best section of the week, some would say. Our many fans look forward to this week every week. It's time for Grid News.
Hello and welcome to Grid News. So today I shall be talking about the new front wing testing. So from this weekend, they've been testing the front wings to a new rigidity standard. I think it was allowed to flex 15 mil and now 10 mil.
Wow.
Which is not a big gap. It's a third. They've reduced it by a third. And people were saying it was going to affect McLaren. McLaren was saying it's not going to affect us. It didn't seem to really affect them. There were teams that maybe weren't as competitive as they have been at other races, but I think, like with the Williams, I don't think that was to do with this. I think that was to do with the way their car operates anyway. But Lewis Hamilton came out and he said it was a huge waste of money.
He said give it to charity.
I don't know if that's just because Lewis Hamilton's a bit pessimistic at the moment, but he said that with all the money that this has cost teams, it could have, like, there were so much better uses for that money, considering he said it's not going to close people up particularly. It's just
a classic politicking by Red Bull to try and find anything to claw McLaren back to them, really. But the average wing costs $100 grand. I feel like this happens that's £2 million at least, right there. Just
This happens all the time, though, right? Like, there's always, every season, there's a couple things where every team does it. Every team does it. Like, it won't hear otherwise because it's not true, right? They always campaign, whoever's winning, and find an issue and try and bring it down. Yeah. And most of the time, these changes come into effect, and they try and bring the thing together. So, look, I get it. This one was kind of small, probably wasn't going to make a difference, but this is what they do. So I mean,
it's part of the sport.
Yeah, that's.
I thought it was a bit rich from Hamilton. Yeah. I mean, Mercedes have done it a lot in the past. I just feel like I get it. You could say the whole sport is a waste of money. Give it all to charity.
Yeah,
I mean, someone crashes that costs millions of quid. Why do you try that overtake? Yeah. Give it to charity. It's just a bit like
Yeah. I remember just to sidetrack a bit, but it is my Grid News segment.
Sorry.
I remember in year 7 in French, somebody saying that football was a waste of money and that they should give it all to charity. And I said to them, yes, but the money would just be, whether or not the football club pays the players that much, the football club would still have that money. Yeah. It's not as though it's being diverted from charitable causes. And it's the same with Formula One.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, they won't give it to charity in the first place. Yeah.
Exactly. Some would say Formula One is the charitable arm of Saudi Arabia and its oil company, Aramco. It's already, Formula One, it's not a charity, I understand that, but it's funded by some dodgy companies, but at least it brings some happiness and joy into the world.
Yeah, well said, Ellie.
Thank you. It gives us a reason to talk to each other,
we wouldn't be here.
And that's very important.
I'd only ever see Ellie at Christmas if we didn't have this podcast. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But the money was never going to go to charity. So I think Hamilton, as you said, it's a bit rich for him to say.
Yeah.
Well, it could have gone to charity because it was never.
Point, though. It was all a bit frivolous, and I think that's just the mood he's in.
It was frivolous. Yeah, but Formula One is
Sport is
frivolous.
frivolous,
That's the whole
really.
point of it.
But we love it nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to say. Like, I understand it, and yeah, maybe this case leans one way, but at the end of the day, I mean, like, you know, I think he's got bigger things to focus on, like, you know.
Being crap.
I mean, he comes in every week, right? Hamilton comes in every week in a new flashy outfit that he's got from, like, I don't know, Louis Vuitton or some designer that spent, you know, millions of pounds on it. Why doesn't he come in, right, in his Mercedes top like Max does every week?
Well, I don't think he can come in Mercedes stuff anymore, Harry.
Well, sorry, yeah. That would be a bit awkward.
You're starting
in a Ferrari top,
Tory MP
and
here, I have to admit.
yeah.
Let's move it on.
Those
Let's move it on.
poor children pulled
He's on
themselves
a
up by their
rant, Kieran. Let's
bootstraps,
move it on.
They wouldn't need charity.
I'll derail it back towards grid news. Have you heard of the conspiracy theory that Red Bull have about McLaren? They have a theory that they're adding water to their tyres somehow. They're squirting water into their wheels. Which I don't even know what kind of performance advantage it gives, but apparently it gives some. But they don't know how they're doing it, and they can't explain how they're doing it, and they don't know how it's possible. But they just know that they're injecting water into their tyres.
This started. Did this start last
year? Yeah, it's been going on for a while. And
I think so. It definitely was.
They still can't prove it, but they say it.
Zach Brown had a water bottle, and somebody had, like, as a joke written on it, like, tyre coolant or something, like something
tires,
funny on the water bottle. Water for tyres, yeah. So, and he was trolling them a bit, but I think that is a rumour or an accusation that's been going on for a while now, but it's unfounded, and I don't think there's anything to it. Yeah.
I haven't heard much. I've heard it in the background. I haven't heard much, like, direct stuff. Like, you know, it's not like with the flexi wing stuff, like, but...
Yeah, no, I've heard more, like, jesting about it as opposed to anything serious. I don't think there's any base to there.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking up.
I'm a believer.
I was just looking up the story now to make sure I wasn't misquoting anything, and a funny little moment. So obviously there was that thing with Zach Brown drinking the tyre water, and Horner obviously wasn't happy about it, and he was clipped as saying, "Let's see how cocky Zach is after the Barcelona rules kick in." I'd have to say he's pretty cocky. I think he's going to be pretty cocky if I'm honest, Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, his team's walking away with 50 points, and
you know what?
Horner's is walking away with 1.
I think it's just that they don't.
I know some people don't like it, right? And they'll be like, a lot of people say, oh, Horner's terrible, and then, you know, if you're on the other side, you might say, oh, Zach Brown's terrible, or Toto. I absolutely love the team principal drama. I love the stir in the pot.
It's the best part of the sport.
You know, just all that stuff. I love it, and I think
it's like a bunch of girls in secondary school. They're all
exactly.
Yeah, like they're all talking about each other behind their backs to the same person, and that person happens to be the media, and we're all privy to it, and it's fantastic. Part of the sport sometimes.
It's beautiful.
I think sports need personalities.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
and James Madison was saying this. If I don't have a personality, I get attacked for not having a personality, and if I have a personality, I get attacked for having a personality. And I like that. These people who are team principals that maybe in previous years, maybe in the pre-Drive to Survive era, had gone under the radar a bit. And I like that we now know them a bit more. Sometimes I don't like when they go to the grid wall, the pit wall, sorry, when they're on in the race, but I think that's a bit gimmicky. But I like that we get a bit more of an understanding of what's going through their mind at the time.
Yeah.
And
I will say,
light trolling about the tyre water, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I will say this has a big caveat that Flavio Briatore is not included in this.
No.
Guy, absolutely not included. Can't stand him. But apart from that.
Yeah. The other ones are fine. It's just Flavio.
Too much personality. Personality is bad.
Or personality of the wrong kind.
Yes, yeah.
Moving on to next week then, looking forward. This is the end of a triple header. Do you think it's really changes? I mean, before, I think we said this would be a really big, just to round up, this would be a really big period for the championship. Not much Max, the only thing that's really happened in my opinion is Max has kind of fallen away as a championship contender this week. Because the gap between Oscar and Lando 10, it's not huge, it's not slimy, it's kind of maintained, really.
I would say the last 3 races, the only thing that's happened really is that it's become a two-horse race. I always think it was a two-horse race, but it's kind of become much more cemented. And yeah, Oscar has the upper hand, but 10 points is easy enough to swing.
Yeah, but yeah, so week off next week, so we can all catch our breath. And the next leg of the European season is in Canada, which I always enjoy.
As we said, Kieran, it's French, Canadian.
We're off to the land of the French. Speaking of bad personalities, we're off to the land of the French next week in Canada. A great track, plenty of great races at this track. Any early predictions, Ellie? Give me your Canada GP top 3. Well, that sounds nice. Canada GP top 3.
I feel like do you know what? I'm going for Piastri. I'm going for Norris, and then I'm going to throw in Charles Leclerc.
Damn.
Crazy.
Almost like that's happened 2 weeks in a row in differing orders.
Well, no, it's not. Who finished on the... Oh, maybe that is what happened, yeah.
I said differing orders. I myself.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think that happened in Monaco. But you're right.
Go on, Harry. Give me your top 3.
I think I don't know. I think I get it wrong pretty much every week, but it's there or thereabouts. It's not much of a prediction anymore, is it? It'll be the 2 McLarens, and then who knows on the third? It'll be probably Russell, Verstappen, or Leclerc. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I don't know. I think Verstappen maybe. I don't think they'll be as slow as they were here, but hard to say.
Well, he's going to. We haven't really touched on this, but he's going to have to be a good boy for the next couple of weeks because he's only 1 point away from a race ban, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's on 11 out of 12 super license points. I think he's got to get through the next 2 races unscathed, and then even then, he's only 3 points away up until about October. So he got 3 points yesterday. Do you know what I mean? So that's going to be one to watch as well. But I think we'll touch. Yeah. If it happens, it'll be a big moment. So that's on my bingo card.
Yeah.
Super license points. So on that note of predictions, I will say I think Lando's going to come back strong. I'm going to go with a Lando victory, followed by Oscar, and then I think Leclerc's driving really well at the minute in that Ferrari. So I'm going to say he's going to get 3rd. So same as Ellie, but flipping the McLarens round there. So after grid news, Ellie, what's your favourite section? Is it grid news or final thoughts? What do you think?
You ask me this every time, Kieran. Get a new tune. And every time I say it's final thoughts.
Well, there you go. Give me lead us off with your final thoughts, then, Ellie.
My final thoughts are... It's actually a bit more of a serious final thought. If we don't see Stroll at the Canadian Grand Prix, we will potentially most likely see Felipe Drugovich, and I quite like him. He's had very, very little time in Formula One, but I think he's probably better than Lance Stroll. So it'll be interesting to see if he does come in, how well he adapts. If he'll have the practice sessions to get a bit more up to speed. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
maybe for our American listeners,
I think
might be a Tom Brady moment. The starting quarterback injured, off Brady comes from the bench and never puts it down again. Maybe it's that. Maybe not.
Well, I was gonna say, I was just gonna lead into that. Like, I almost think can I don't know if he wants to. It's so hard to tell with Stroll, but maybe he can spin this into just the wrists. I shouldn't drive. Have a few weeks off and just maybe never come back. Just take this as a dignified way out.
Retire from injury.
It's not. It's probably not what he wants, but I think it should happen at this point. But.
I'll do my final thoughts, Harry, and then Harry, you can finish us off. So, my final thoughts are, I'm just a bit sad that Max Verstappen is one of the most talented drivers we've ever had, but he costs himself this week, and I find it sad that, in my opinion, he's basically kicked himself out of championship contention for his own behaviour, and I just think that is a sad note on this season, and hopefully he learns his lesson, but he probably won't, but hopefully he learns his lesson. That's my final thought. Harry, finish us off.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a sad day to be a Red Bull and a Max fan, because I am a Max fan. yeah, I concur with that. Really, I mean, it's a shame, but a harsher penalty should have been given. So I don't think he will learn because 10 seconds is. He kind of put out posts saying he sort of took responsibility, but you know, it's not.
Yeah, I saw that.
Nothing more than a PR mandated thing, really. So
Okay.
I just hope for more positive racing next week from him and everyone else as well. We just want clean racing, so yeah.
Clean racing is all we want, and all I think as fans we deserve. On that note, then, thank you very much for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, follow us on the Instagram, follow us on YouTube, add us on Spotify, and we'll see you after Canada. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.